Welcome back, and today we're going to look at angles in using AutoCAD. This is going to be very important, and we're going to take a look at a couple of different commands, mainly the copy, the move command as well, and we're going to do some lines and other things and just to show you how angles work fully in this program. So I hope at the end of this that you have a better understanding of how to use angles, how to set them up, and just how to make them work in AutoCAD. What you see here is going to be how the angles are drawn or created in using AutoCAD. And you can see here going to the right is where I have the 0 degrees, and it rotates in a counterclockwise rotation in order for the angle to increase. Now this is controlled underneath. If you go to the A in the top corner, Drawing Utilities, and underneath Units, it should open up a dialog box. And then you can tell it to find the direction. So you can see that the direction is 0 and it's facing to the east, in this case, which would be the right. I would highly recommend that you leave that alone because all of the AutoCADs that I've ever used are set up this way and it might kind of throw you off, but you do have the option of changing that. Okay, so we see that these angles are created basically from, I can go to the right and I can rotate in a counterclockwise, kind of like I said. The format for these is going to be that the @ symbol, distance, then you have to type in the less than symbol, and then you're going to type in your degrees. So for example, here I have the @ symbol, 5.25, angle 30. You don't have to put the degree symbol there. That is not required in this. Now, one of the things that you want to notice is that do you have the dynamic input turned on or off? And if you do have it turned on, that's going to eliminate the need for this @ symbol in most of your cases. There is one case where you're going to have to physically type that in, and I will show you that as well. But this little @ symbol is controlled if you have the dynamic input turned on. The way you're going to verify that is that if you look here at the bottom, you can see I have this dynamic input little icon here. If you don't have that, go ahead and click on this customization bar, and then it's going to be the 5th one down or so. And you see dynamic input. So if that little check is beside that, you should have this icon on. Another thing that we're going to take a look at is when we're doing these angles is you have two other special types of way of doing it. You can either use ortho, and that's the ortho mode or F8, or you can use the polar tracking, which is going to be our function key or F10. This one is going to be controlled by F12. I know it doesn't say that in the little tooltip that pops up beside it. You can either click this icon or F12 or function key 12. It's going to be the exact same thing. Now let's go ahead and take a look at a drawing that we're going to create, and we're going to use angles, and then I'm going to also show you the benefit of using that dynamic input. So the drawing that I have used, or that I've selected, is going to be this one. So you can see the actual image that is in red, and you can see these two X's in front of everything. Now that doesn't mean multiply any of your angles or your distances by that number. That just means that it's in two places. It's mainly shorthand on any time you use drafting for, 2 places, or you may see 4 places, 3 places, any of that stuff. So this is referring to that this angle applies on this side and as well as this side. So those are the 2 places that one applies to. The same here at the bottom. So this is going to this inside and that one is going to that one. And then I have 2x to give me that length and this one. Same here at the top. So this length here and this one, and then finally here and here. So I just verified now that I do have enough information to create this drawing. The next thing I need to do is figure out where I want to start it from. Okay, so what I did is I went ahead and I inserted in our little cheat here for our angles. But as you use AutoCAD more and more, you're going to understand that all of these angles, it's going to be typical. The ones I would probably try to commit to memory is going to be my 45 degrees one, since that's going to be the easiest ones. And then after that, you can kind of manipulate your mind to come up with the 30 degrees and the 60 degrees. Okay, so now I need to determine where do I want to start from. When I'm looking at a drawing, and in this case, I can figure out and go to anywhere I want to, but I kind of like to work from the lower left corner, and I'll work in that counterclockwise rotation just like the angles work. So that's the typical way I'll start a drawing. So let's start with the line command. And you can see that my dynamic input is turned on and my ortho is turned off. You can leave the ortho turned on, or in this case, even the polar tracking. Just remember that anytime you type in something, it's going to be controlled by what you type in first. So I don't really have to look at it on the screen graphically, because sometimes in AutoCAD it'll start doing some weird things, or you can see the icons moving around. But if you keep typing in the syntax, everything will work its way out. Okay, so let's go ahead and pick our first point here. So I'm going to be locating this point here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the syntax. And remember that the syntax is that I type in the distance if you have your dynamic input turned on. If you don't, you have to type in that @ symbol or hold down the shift button and hit the number 2 on most of your PCs. Okay, the dynamic input is on mine, so I type in the distance, which is 1.25. Hold down the shift button, and then that'll put in my less than symbol. So the shift and the comma will give you that less than symbol, and then I can type in the degrees that I want. In this case, it's going to be 30 degrees. You can hit the enter button on your keyboard, or you can hit the space bar. Both of them are going to act as the exact same thing. Now you can see if I move my cursor around, it's actually got that point locked in. Next, I'm going to go ahead and type in my next one, which is going to be the same distance, 1.25. Next, I see that that line is going in the 0 direction, so I'm looking here at this little angle compass, is that that's going to be at the 0 direction. So I type in 1.25, hold down the shift button, do my angle, and you can see on my screen that that line is going up. But remember what I said, when you type in, that's going to override it. So once I type in the 0 and hit enter, it's going to go ahead and create that line where I want it. Let's continue going. 1.25 angle. And now I'm ready to type in the angle. You can see by using the compass over there that it's 330 degrees. If you don't remember that high, AutoCAD will also accept negative numbers, so I don't have to go 330 degrees if I don't want to. I can go going down this direction and type in a negative 30 degrees, which will give me the exact same thing. So angle, negative 30, and it will go down that way. So you have an option. You can type in the negative number of it, or you can type in the positive number. Okay, next I want to go a line going straight up and down. I can type in 1.25. I'll type in the angle, so that's the shift button and the comma to give me that angle symbol. Next, that is going 90 degrees, so I'll type in 90, enter. Let's go ahead and do the next one, 1.25 angle. And we can see that that angle is sitting at 150. So I'll type in 150, enter. Still typing out my next one, which is 1.25. Type in the angle symbol. That's going to be at 180 degrees. And then I'll go ahead and complete this last little line going down. So it's 1.25 angle, 210 degrees. And then to make this all connect, all I have to do now is either use the close function, that's on my command line here, or I can type C enter. Both of them are the exact same thing. So now you can see that I've created that shape. There's a quicker way of doing that, and I'm just going to slide over here to the side and not really use the compass. If you want to use the polar tracking method, make sure that it's set to the 30, 60, 90. Then I'm going to turn this on. Either you can hit the function key 10, or you can click on the icon. And this should go a lot quicker than what we did by having to define all those angles. So go ahead and select line, click your base point. And now this way I'm just going to rotate up to where it says 30 degrees. I'll type in my number, which is 1.25, enter. I'll go this direction, so you have to make sure that you're looking on the screen when you're using the polar tracking and also the ortho mode. So I'm physically having to look on it because I'm not typing in any syntax to override it. So I have it going that horizontal direction. I'll type in 1.25, enter. I want to go down this direction, so I'm going here and I'm just rotating down, and you're going to see it's going to lock at 30 degrees. 1.25, enter. So you can already see the difference between using these two. One is that I'm going to have to physically look on the screen and see what's happening. And the other one, if I know the syntax, I can type it in without looking at the screen. So I'm going straight up and down in a vertical. 1.25, enter. and I want to go back this direction. So remember that if this is horizontal, I want to go up 30 degrees. It's going to lock for me. 1.25, enter. Let's go horizontal, go in this direction. 1.25, enter. And then I want to come down in this direction. So I'm just going to rotate down to where it snaps at that 30 degrees going down this way. 1.25, enter. And then the final thing is C, enter. Okay. So now that's using the line command, and hopefully that explained how you can do all of these different types of things with lines and defining the angles if you know the angle or if you want to set up your polar tracking. Now sometimes you'll come across some stuff where you won't have that polar tracking to fit in between those. So you're going to have to be able to manipulate or figure out the degrees. Most of the drawings that you're going to use are going to have the degrees on it. All right, so let's take a look at another command using angles. So I'm going to go ahead and create a circle on here, and really doesn't matter the size of it. I just want to show you how to do it. So I'm going to put a circle right at this endpoint. And then let's go ahead and make that circle, let's say 0.25 as the radius. Okay. Now in AutoCAD, there's this thing called displacement. And what the displacement means is that if I'm moving something at a distance, then it's irrelevant of where I want to pick my base point. And this is going to be kind of true with all of your modifying commands. What I mean by that is that if I want to move, and I'm going to go and select move, it's going to ask me to select the object, and I'm going to select this circle, enter. And what I mean by this displacement is if I'm moving it at a distance, a known distance, whether that distance be at an angle or as two coordinate or rectangular points, then my base point does not become important. All I'm doing is just going to figure out the displacement of it. So if I click here or at this center, it's going to do the exact same thing. So I'll click here. And next I'm going to do the angle syntax just like we did before. So my dynamic input is still turned on, 1.25, angle, and then I will type in 30. And if I do that correctly, you will want to see that that's going to move that center or that circle from its center to that other center, just because I know the distance that it is going. Now it is something that if I don't know the distance, for example, if I want to move this circle located to this point and I want these endpoints to touch, then I have to physically click on that endpoint as my control point. So if I go to move, select my circle, enter. Once I'm done, this is going to be the next step. It's asking me for a base point or the displacement. So I'm just going to select here as my endpoint, and then I'm going to click and put that endpoint here. Now this is the exact same way the copy command is going to work, except for the copy command is going to keep creating duplicates. Okay, so next what I want to do is that I want to show you one command that when you want to use angles, or a O-snap setting actually is what it's more or less, that I have to use or type in the @ symbol. Okay, so if I want to move this circle now and I want to place it here at this location, I don't know the distance from here going to here. I probably can figure that out, but it's going to take me a lot more work or trying to figure out where to go from here. So the easiest way to do that is that I'm going to move this circle, and I know that I want the center to be located at that point. But I do know the distance from this endpoint to here. Okay, so let's go to the move command, and then I'm going to select the object. So I'm just following along what the command line is telling me to do. I'm going to select this object, enter. Where do I want to move it from? Well, I know that I want this endpoint to be at that location, right? And I'm assuming that we're not using O-snaps on this one. Yes, it's easy enough to select this endpoint and put it on that endpoint. But I just want to show you a different way of doing this without the syntax. But I have a known point here, and if I didn't have that point. Okay, so my base point is going to be at this endpoint. So I'm going to select that endpoint. The next thing is going to say, okay, where do you want that other point to go? Well, I know where I want it to reference from. So I'm going to hold down the shift button and do a right click. And I'm going to select the from option in my O-snap settings window. Once I have that done, now it's asking me, give me a base point. Choose the base point is what it's asking. So I'm going to click on this base point. So once you click on that base point, now you're seeing that it's ready to offset from that base point. Now I can type in the syntax to give me that. But anytime you're using this command, you have to physically type in the @ symbol. I can't stress that enough. So hold down the Shift button and hit the number 2 button. So now my @ symbol is locked in. I can type in my 1.25. Then I can do the angle, 30 degrees. And once I hit the enter button, you're going to see that that circle will indeed move to that location. So if I did not physically have that endpoint sitting here, yes, I know where I want it to go from this endpoint, and I want it to be located there at that angle. I can type in all the syntax and get it. All right. When you're using these modify commands, one of the other things that you're going to have, or you're going to see, is that you do have the option of pre-selecting things. And once we go over the move command and copy command in another video, I will definitely show you that more into these that it is. But just keep in mind that anytime you're using any of these modifying commands, is that I can pre-select what I want to do. So I can select this object here, and then I can go to move, and it's going to skip that step of selecting my objects. Likewise, if you want to use the grips command, and once again, I'm going to make a video covering grips in its entirety. But if I wanted to move this, grips is one of the quicker ways of doing that. What you're going to notice that if you select an object and you see all of these grip points on it, if I select this center grip, if I look down on the bottom, I have the sketch command. I hit the space bar one time, it's in the move. And then I can use the from option or do whatever I want to do, and then I can just place it to where I want it to go. But overall, in this video, it's hopefully that you gained a lot of information about angles and how to work with them. I tried my best to explain or trying to give you the notion of how to manipulate them and understand that you can use the negative angles as well. Okay, so once again, I hope I explained that a lot, and if I didn't, please leave some comments for me, and I will make another video just trying to improve upon what I've done here. So I want to thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.